All right, if you're an Angular developer, you have definitely asked yourself this question. Why on earth do we use observables for a simple HTTP request? It feels a little weird, right? But stick with me because understanding this is going to totally level up how you think about async code in your apps.
So this is the heart of it, isn't it? You make an API call, the server thinks for a second, sends back one response, and that's it. The end. One and done. So why does Angular's HTTP client hand you an observable, this tool we always associate with streams of data over time? It kind of feels like using a fire hose to water a single houseplant. But, as you're about to find out, there are some incredibly smart reasons for this choice.
You know, the confusion usually starts with how we're all taught to think about promises versus observables. It's a common starting point, but it's not the whole story. So let's start right there, because getting this part is key to that big aha moment.
Most of us learned it like this. A promise gives you one value once, and an observable can give you many values over time, like a stream. And if you stop there, it makes perfect sense that a promise would be the right tool for an HTTP call. But the Angular team saw a bigger picture. The real story is so much more interesting than just counting how many values you get back.
It really all boils down to three huge advantages that observables bring to the table. And we're not talking about small, minor things. These are fundamental features that give you way more power and control over what's happening in your application. Okay, here are the big three: cancellation, powerful operators, and lazy execution. These aren't just fancy words. They solve real-world problems that every developer faces. Let's dig into the first one, which is an absolute game changer: cancellation.
Okay, picture this. A user clicks a button to fetch a ton of data, but then, oops, they get impatient and navigate to a different page. With a promise, that request is gone. It's out there in the wild, and you can't stop it. It's going to finish eating up bandwidth and server time for no reason. But with an observable, the second that user navigates away, you just unsubscribe, and poof, the in-flight request is canceled. That is a level of control that promises just don't give you.
And that control just gets better with the second major advantage. See, observables come with this incredible library called RxJS, which is basically a giant toolbox full of functions for manipulating data streams. We call these functions operators. Just think about this for a second. What if an API call fails because of a network blip? With observables, you can just add the retry operator and tell it, hey, try that 2 or 3 more times before you give up. What if a request is taking way too long? Just use the timeout operator. You can chain these things together to transform data, filter it, all before it even gets to your component. Trying to write all of that logic yourself using promises would be a complete mess.
This brings us to number 3, and this one is all about being efficient. Observables are lazy, and I mean that in the best way possible. When you write the code for an HTTP call, absolutely nothing happens. No network request is made. The request only fires when you actually call .subscribe to. Why is this so great? Well, it means you can set up requests ahead of time and only trigger them when you really need them, which saves a ton of unnecessary network chat. So we've got cancellation, operators, and lazy execution. Those are the practical, everyday reasons. But there's a deeper, kind of more philosophical reason that observables are the perfect fit. And it has to do with what an HTTP request really is under the hood. We think of an API call as one single action, but it's really not. It's a process. It's a series of events. First, the request gets sent. Then, if you're uploading a big file, you might get progress updates along the way. Finally, the response comes back. Each of those points in time is a separate event.
And that's the real aha moment. An HTTP interaction is a stream of events. Even if most of the time you only care about that final piece of data, the whole process is a stream. And what is the absolute best tool we have in the JavaScript world for handling streams of events? An observable. It's a perfect match.
Okay, so we've gone deep. We've covered all the angles. Now, let's wrap all this knowledge into a nice, clean, perfect answer for the next time you're in a technical interview and this question comes up.
So when they ask, here's what you say. Angular uses observables for HTTP client because they provide superior asynchronous control. This gives you critical features like the ability to cancel requests, a huge library of operators like retry and timeout to handle complex situations, and lazy execution for better performance. That answer right there, it's concise, it's accurate, and it shows you really get the why behind the code. So to wrap it all up, promises are fantastic for simple one-time async actions, but observables are a complete toolkit for managing complex async flows. They let you cancel things, they give you powerful operators, they're lazy for better performance, and they perfectly match the event stream nature of an HTTP request. It's not about which one is better, it's about using the right tool for the right job.
And for a powerful framework like Angular, the control and flexibility of observables just makes sense. It's the clear winner. So what other design choices that seem obvious on the surface have you always been curious about?